It really depends on the offense. You know, certainly there is the aspect of medical marijuana, but still marijuana cultivation, distribution, use, and consumption is illegal unless it's within the exception of the Compassionate Use Act. We file in excess of about 100 cases per year regarding marijuana cultivation. What we look at to determine whether someone should go to prison, of course, ultimately it's the judge that makes those determinations, are the circumstances associated with the individual in the cultivation. Were there children in the house? Were they harmed? Are there weapons? What is their prior record like? Have they engaged in this before? The extent of the profit. Are they engaged in other criminal activities such as other drugs? Are these drugs present in the house? Basically what we're trying to do is find out whether they're distributing these drugs and whether they're harming this community. If they do pose a threat to people, children, this community, either environmentally or whatnot, certainly they take there's a different set of standards that we apply to them. You know, regrettably, last year we had to send 3 people to prison for cultivation. The investigators in my office are the best, most qualified law enforcement officers in Humboldt County. The AR-15s are the standard issue rifles that a law enforcement officer gets out of the academy. My investigators are law enforcement officers that are actively engaged in investigations in this community, and they do, regrettably, have contact with violent people, and they must defend themselves. Anyone that works for my office, I have a responsibility to make sure they have adequate training, they have adequate equipment, and adequate supplies, not only to do their job, but to protect themselves. My officers have arrested, certainly they arrested Mr. Bradshaw, just many people that are involved in many different kinds of conduct. They need and they should be armed as any law enforcement officer, and they are. That includes jackets, it includes sidearms, and it includes the standard issue AR-15 that every officer straight out of the CR Academy here in Humboldt County is issued. So that is a mistake on the part of my opponents to think they should get rid of it. You know, really there should be no case where you say you wouldn't accept a plea bargain because cases are uncertain. Our system has a presumption of innocence first and foremost. The burden of proof is beyond a reasonable doubt. The verdict can only be reached by a jury, and it has to be a unanimous jury verdict. Having said that, there are many, many cases where it's very difficult for us to even contemplate a disposition. Those involve crimes of violence against individuals, especially when you have particularly vulnerable individuals. There are many cases that we simply have not been able to resolve because the consequence is just too terrible. Having said that, we always engage in settlement negotiations. It is our responsibility to the community, it's our responsibility as officers of the court, and it's responsibility to the justice system.